Hi folks, welcome back to another episode of RunYogi Diaries. This is your host, Santosh Shiva. Every week, I bring you conversations with people who are on a journey of well-being and fitness through endurance sports. I hope they spark some possibility in you, leave you with some tips, and perhaps inspire you to perspire. This episode is also available on leading podcast platforms if audio is your thing. Also, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to it. Hit like if you like this video, and remember to leave your comments. Let us know if you took something away. In the house today is a fellow Houston runner who has been getting faster and fitter. Not only that, he's been an active community volunteer, having served in the Houston Area Runners Association, as well as today in the Chevron Marathon board. We dig into how he got into running, his approach to training that's making him go faster, his love for all things Japan, his touching act of being a live organ donor, and finally, what's next in his amazing journey. Let's welcome Subbu Venkat. Hey Subbu, welcome to RunYogi Diaries.
Hey Santosh, good to talk to you.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure talking to you. You have a fascinating story, and you've been running for a while, and you've been doing some great stuff, both as a runner and as well as a someone in the community within the Houston area. So we have a lot to talk and learn from you. But before that, I'll let you do a quick personal introduction, and then we'll jump in.
Sure, thank you, Santosh. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you this afternoon. My name is Subbu Venkat, short for the Indians, if you know Subramanian. That's the real name, but Subbu is the short form. And I'm 57 years old, and I live in Houston with my wife. And I'm an engineering manager for a very reputed semiconductor company in the Houston area. I've been with them for a very, very long time. So yeah, that's a little bit of an introduction about me. Lived here in the U.S. since 1989, one way or another. So it's been quite 33 years almost, 32 years. So yeah.
All right, terrific. Hey, you obviously have a fascinating journey of running yourself, and you're a Boston qualifier, and I also saw that you've been getting faster recently in the last few years. So we got to little bit dig into what you're doing, what you're eating, what you're drinking. But before that, maybe we should spend some time around do a bit of a flashback here, right?
Sure.
Give us a sense of what was running like when you were growing up, and did you grow up as a runner, or was it something you took on later?
Yeah, so let's flash back for a very long time because I'm a pretty old person. But short story before I go to the longer story. Short story. No, I did not take up running until about I was 34 years old, and so that's just recently. It's about the last 20 years, and since then I've been running very consistently. But anyway, going back, I grew up in the southern city of Chennai, or Madras, as we know, the youngest of four kids. And a typical, South Indian, very, very average middle income, low to middle income kind of family. Dad worked for the same company for years, and brother and sisters, and I'm the youngest. And it's a typical family, and looked up. You basically were taught to focus on studies more than anything else. Especially growing up back in the late 70s and late 70s, really. I graduated high school in 81. So late 70s, as you probably know, and as in your listeners, Indian listeners know, there's not a whole lot of emphasis on sports, especially given the population, the amount of people, and the parents obviously want to make sure the kids grow up to be well educated and gainfully employed, etc. And sports was not a big deal at those days. I mean, you had to be, with that population being that high, very, 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 very few people can make it to the top if you play cricket or football or anything like that. So And athletics, especially, was not a big popular thing in high schools. Anyway, the schools that I went to.
Mm.
So none of our siblings, my siblings, or were athletic oriented. We all were education, and sons become engineers, but daughters become doctors, and that's really the typical stereotyping. I know I'm doing that, but so that was it. But the one thing about my upbringing was that my dad was extremely, what shall I say? He was an extroverted guy, and he was always organizing events for his companies. And so they would have a sports meet every year, and there was an entire day. It was like a track and field event, just like if you have Olympic trials or something like that here, or any college meet. You have the heats in the morning and the finals in the afternoon, and then evening they had the 100 meters, etc. So back then, this is again, I'm talking about 75, 76, 77, 78, those days. And, he was very athletic oriented, I should say. He was not like a track and field guy, but he was more of a bodybuilding, weightlifting person. So he was in the Tamil Nadu Bodybuilding Association. He was in one of the officers. And so he would take me, and since I'm the youngest, I was always kind of a little bit of pampered kid, spoiled. So he would always take me, and I always wanted to be hang around with my dad. And so he would take me to all these events and meets. And he would be the announcer. He would be like the commentator, be it the bodybuilding events or the competitions or the yearly sports meet that they had at their office. And so I would just sit next and observe, and he was commentating, and I would see all these events. If 200 meters, 400 meters, 800 meters, etc., and they have the kids events in the afternoon, etc. So that got me a little bit interested in track and field, or just sports. But the facilities and all the money it takes, and the schools themselves were not really oriented. They didn't have the schools that I went to anyway didn't have a big sports program or athletic thing. It was more academic. So I never really did any sports. I wasn't good at cricket either. Even street cricket, I was not that great. The only thing I did was my dad, since he was he spent a lot of time on strengthening and lifting. We had, back in those days, we had a barbell and dumbbells at home, and I would just do that. I mean, he had all these fitness programs and all these colorful magazines from the U.S. Would have all these, Mondays you do this, leg day, Tuesdays is chest day and biceps and blah, blah, blah. So I was doing those when I was in high school. That was the only thing that I knew. And so there was no aerobic thing involved, no swimming, no running, no walking, nothing like that. Now, as we know, in India, we didn't, grow up in a middle-income family, so there was no cars or anything. It was just mostly, you took the bus to school, etc. So you walked quite a bit. So you had that, because sometimes you would just walk, 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers to go to a different place to go to school, etc. But so that's all I had from an athleticism standpoint. There was none. And then even when I went to college, engineering college, etc., I didn't really do anything. Then once I moved to the U.S., part of the reason I started running was because there was a history of diabetes in my family, and so I wanted to be a little bit careful that if I had a sedentary lifestyle, then I wanted to make sure that I don't get diabetes. So I started running,
Yep.
and that was in my late 30s. So flashback. I'll stop there, and we can talk further. But I think that was my upbringing. Yeah. It was thanks to my dad that even though I didn't do anything, I was very interested in watching and learning and reading about track and field, etc. The days of P.T. Usha and
absolutely.
Ashwini Nachappa. Yeah,
Ashwini Nachappa.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So those ladies, it was pretty inspiring. But anyway, that's
the
background.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I think it goes to say that even if it's not explicit, you do have implicit inspiration, and I think in your case, definitely your dad doing all those things had sometimes you wonder, okay, I'm doing this, and are my kids, even getting something out of it? I wonder that sometimes, but I think there is some kind of indirect.
Definitely, there is something.
Right?
Genes, definitely, and there is something involved. But I have a brother and two sisters. So of course, they have lived in India. So these days, of course, running is a little bit more easier, especially for women in India. But those days, I mean, it was not. It was not. Running was frowned upon. I mean, it was not safe. It was not,
Yeah.
and also safe meaning not just for the personal safety, but also for not tripping and falling and getting bitten by a dog, a stray dog, etc. Early in the morning when you run. But like you said, it's some of it is. Being with somebody who's interested, being listening and watching what they do, and then and if you're a parent, of course, that you get a lot of it. My brother and my sisters didn't really go with my dad to all these events, so they never picked that up.
Okay.
But since I was always going to these things, and he would have cultural festivals as well, where they would have stage a play, and he was an actor himself, as a hobby. And so I picked that up as well. So it goes to say, yeah, I'm those characteristics. I think I imbibed from my dad because I wanted to be a singer, I wanted to be a dancer, and then later in life I did that too. I mean, because I was staging plays in college and even at work and doing some ballroom dance lessons in Houston, etc. But yeah, you're right. I think it's definitely there is some amount of gene and nature versus nurture, like we say. I mean, it's a little bit of both, I guess. But yeah.
So you sing too?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm not like a Kishore Kumar or S.P. Balasubramanian or anything like that. But, for a bathroom singer, I was pretty darn good, I think. That's what they say. Yeah, I always loved to sing.
If time permits, maybe you should sing for us.
Oh, no. I know. I would stick to running.
I know. All right. So, yeah, I mean, and you said you started, running in your mid-30s, which is, I think, I would say that's pretty decent. It's not too late. I've seen people who start much later, but 20 years you've been at it, so that's terrific. So let's talk about that, right? So yes, you probably had a health concern that drove you to start running. So how did it all start? I mean, did you just pick up your shoes and go out one day, or did somebody inspire you to do that?
Pretty much that. Exactly what you said. I was 37 years old, maybe 36, and I said, "Okay, I have to do something." Especially when you move to the U.S. I had not moved at the time. I mean, I had moved. It was not. It was 7 years after my move, I should say. But still, when U.S. the food is rich. If you don't watch out, everything, you tend to put on a lot of weight, unhealthy things you eat. And so I started noticing that, and I said, "Oh, I got to be a little bit careful," and especially with the diabetes, history of diabetes in my family. So, like you said, it was one fine morning. I said, "Oh, I think I'm going to go run around the block." I was living in an apartment in Sugar Land at the time, but this is how naive I was. Even though I knew, okay, running is the easiest thing anybody can do. You don't need anything besides running shoes. And it's not like a tennis or a golf, or there's not a whole lot of skill involved, if you will, for just just getting out and getting an exercise for 20 minutes. But I honestly did not know that you need special running shoes for cushioned, etc. All I had was I had a sneaker, whatever, that I had bought at Oshman's. It used to be Oshman's. Now it's called, I guess, Sports Authority bought them up, but. Anyway, there was a store near the house, and I had it with a sneaker, and I went in for a run. And I could not run more than a mile because my feet and my legs, everything would hurt. And I'm like, wow, how do people run? This is really tough. And then somebody at my work said, "Are you wearing running shoes?" And I said, "Well, I wear these." And he said, "No, you have to go to specialty stores or in any store and ask for running shoes." I did not know that. So that was how naive I was. And so then once I figured out, I started running, and 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, and then then I said, okay, 30 minutes, whatever. Typically, people start 10-minute miles, 10.5-minute miles, 30-minute exercise. If you have elevated heart rate for 20 minutes, they say it's really good. And so that was my only goal. At 10 minutes, kind of warm up, and then 20 minutes, you maintain like a high level, and then 30 minutes. That's what I was doing until.
So one question I have is, you could have also gone the other way, which is what your dad did, and you were inspired by him, which is to be strength trainer, weight training. So how did you pick running versus, let's say, going down the path of becoming a gym rat?
Yeah, I think that was because, okay, back when I was doing all the lifting at home in India when I was in high school and college, I went to a doctor for something for dermatology. I had some skin issues at the time, and I had to go to the doctor. And the doctor is my dad's friend from the bodybuilding association, so he is a dermatologist. But my dad knew him, and they were good friends from the TNBA, TNBBA bodybuilding association. And so I went to the doctor, and so he examined me. Of course, I had to take my shirt off and everything, and he could see I was buffed up. And and he said, "This is good, but do you do any aerobics in terms of do you run, do you swim, all of that?" He said, "It's good to have I know you want to. I was like high school or first year of college. How
Okay.
18 to 19 years old, your goal is to impress women, impress girls. So so having a good body, good physique, that you think those are the things that matter, right? We're silly, we're in high school, we didn't know any better." And so the doctors told me that these are all good for you showing off to kids, but you, from health wise, this is not going to help you. This is good, but you need to supplement it with some elevated heart rate thing. You got to do some swimming, biking, or run, walk, do those things. And I really didn't pay any attention to that. I said, okay, whatever. And then I moved on, and then I went to college, went away from home. And then once you go to, of course, when you go to college, then when you're staying in hostel, etc., those things go out the window. You're partying too much, or you're studying a lot, especially in engineering college, etc. It's a little hard. And so it was, you didn't really think about exercising and everything else. And until I moved to the US, then I started thinking, then I kind of remembered that, okay, running, I need to do something. And again, growing up in India, especially in the late 70s, early 80s, and a very, very moderate income family, swimming was one of the expensive sports you could do. You couldn't, there was not swimming pools that you could go. So I never learned to swim. And, recently I learned, not recently, after moving to the US, I learned, but as an adult, swimmer, but, I didn't learn. So the only thing I could do was, okay, I can run. So, easily, because I thought, well, put on a shoe and then go run. And then I did not know that you needed special running shoes, which then somebody told me. And then, of course, then one thing led to another. The following year, I ran my first marathon. So it was, and then, of course, that was when I was 38 years old, 37 years old. And then since then, I've been running 20 years now.
Yeah, awesome. And what that was late 90s, I guess, right?
It was no. It was 2001, so it is 20 years ago. So 2001 is when I started to run. So it was, I had moved to the US, but then I didn't run for a while. It's only 1996, 97, 98. No, actually, it was 1999 is when I started to run, and I couldn't. And then 2000, that's when one of my work colleagues told me that, hey, you need special running shoes. So then I started, oh, really? That's why I'm hurting. So then I went to a store, bought running shoes. Then it felt okay. Then started running comfortably 3 miles. And then that year, 2000, the same friend who told me about running shoes, she was training for the Houston Marathon. And so while she was training for the marathon, I was training to just, be able to run the last 6 miles from Memorial Park and to GRB with her. So I was training to run 6 miles, and she was training for 26.2 miles. And so I, that year in 2000, she ran the marathon, and I helped her come back, run the last 6 miles while I was waiting for her to show up. And there was a long wait because the weather was very, very, very bad that day for a marathon. It was like 85 degrees or something. It was really nasty, humid and hot. So as I was waiting, and she had given me a time as to when she would show up, but she was about an hour behind because all the time goals were out the window because it was really hot. So I was waiting so an hour longer than I thought I would. So as I was waiting there and standing, I see all these people running marathon, running the race, going towards the GRB. And I said, wow, this looks very exciting. And to be honest, I've always wanted to be like, I think it comes from the performance, I want to perform kind of a thing. And it's like a little bit of showmanship I had. So, this is great. I can run in front of others, and others can see me do this. And so I said, oh, this is great. I want to try it next year. So then I started training for it the
Okay.
following year, 2001, which is what first marathon, and then I got addicted to it. It's more of it's all runners are type A. You do one, and then you're like, I could have run better. I want to try again, and then you just keep adding goals after
Yeah.
goals after goals, and then next thing you know, you're constantly running. It becomes a way of life now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the initial ego trip is very helpful, and I think once you spend maybe a couple of years doing it, then you realize that slowly and steadily you may have started for various reasons. It could be because you wanted to be healthy, or you just wanted to be cool or whatever.
Yeah,
But at some point it switches, and suddenly you start doing things because you want to continue running, and
correct.
it's a very gradual transition, but it does happen.
Absolutely. It becomes very individualistic at some point. Initially, it starts out as, okay, hey, I want to do this because, and those days, to be honest, and there were not very many Indians in Houston, period, and Indian runners.
Yeah.
So it was like, wow, this is, you stand out a little bit. So it's like, oh, I want to do this. But then again, you figure it's not more of an ego. I don't think it was ego. It was more of, wanting to be seen, if you will. And then, of course, like you said, then you realize, okay, there's something more to it than just, satisfy that innate, desire to want to be seen, but also because I want to satisfy internally. It's like, oh, wow, I want to run a faster time. I want to qualify Boston. I want to PR. Yeah. It may be, different thing for different people, but you're right. I mean, it becomes a little bit, you realize that it's individualistic. You're not trying to beat someone. A healthy competition is not a bad idea, but still, most of the times it's we don't do this for money. It's for our own internal gratification. But yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly what happens.
And also, I think things have changed a lot. But I know there was also a time where culturally, for us, especially Indian Americans or Indians in general, was like people would look at you and say, "Why are you running? Why are you putting all this stress with you among yourself?
Exactly.
You'll have a knee problem. You'll have that. Why don't you just go and do yoga or something, right? Why are you struggling and suffering this?" And so it was always also a counterculture. Even sometimes I deal with that even today. It's like there's a lot of these myths around running, and why are you putting yourself through that, right?
Yeah.
So that's another obstacle you have to deal with. And I have a lot of friends in India now who are doing so well in running. There's like Bangalore has a huge running scene. Chennai has such a huge running scene. I had guests from there. And they've shattered the glass ceiling, and it's like a completely different world out there.
Amazing.
Now. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I would love to go back to India and do a race there. It just needs to. I need to time it in such a way that Actually, it's funny because I think one time when I was in India, that was the day of the Pune. There was a marathon in Pune. That must have been the 2002. I think there was an inaugural marathon or something. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, you could see the people running barefoot, the army guys, and running, they were in a pretty fast clip too. So it was like, wow, it's amazing. But yeah, so jealous. Now I think, not jealous, I shouldn't say, but I'm so happy that it's there now. When we were growing up, we didn't have anything like that, and so it's amazing. And funnily enough, one of my sisters now, she has been bitten by the bug, and so she hasn't run the full marathon, but she's run the half, the marathon, but she's done the half many times now in Chennai, and she's been happy. I mean, it's run, walk, which is great still. So she's pretty happy about that. So yeah, it's good.
Awesome.
It's good to see that.
So coming back to your own journey, right? And you started. You've been at it 20 years. You also qualified for Boston. So so when did that happen? Tell us a little bit about how you kind of scaled your performance to that levels.
Yeah, so I started running. The first marathon was 2001, and then I at the time I think it was 4:35, the first marathon, and then I wanted to improve. Obviously, it's like, I need to do. I would love to do under 4. So the same fall, I went to Chicago, and Chicago that was 2001. it's a fast course and it's pretty flat. And of course, those were the days prior to Garmin. There's no Garmin. You just judged your pace by your heart rate or whatever. I actually used, I believe, a Polar or something maybe. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, I did that, and 2 years later, so basically, I did 2001 Houston, 2001 Chicago, 2002 Houston, 2002 Chicago. So basically, my fourth marathon, I came pretty close to qualifying for Boston. So I said, "Oh, it was only about 5 minutes away." It was like, I don't remember, it was 3:35, and I needed 3:30, I think, at the time. So I said, "Okay, now it's only 5 more minutes. I should be able to, hopefully, if I train harder, I should be able to." And on those 4 marathons, I kind of trained by myself. I mean, there was just I did not know anybody. So I used to live in the suburbs, and I would come to Memorial Park, and I just do loops around the park. And I was only running like 3-4 days a week, and 4 times a week. And during the weekdays, I was running like 4 miles, 4 to 5 miles in the neighborhood. And then weekends, I'll come to Memorial Park and do loops. I didn't know any better. And I was just looking at some of the online. Hal Higdon used to be one of the, he's still around, but his programs are still popular. So I had downloaded it, I think, and I bought a book, I think. Did that. So then, 2002, I was pretty close to qualifying Boston. And so I said, oh, maybe it's 5 more minutes. But that 5 minutes, I couldn't. I tried my best from 2002 until 2010, almost 8 years. And I was doing different kind of marathons. And I picked probably the wrong ones. But I did Chicago 3 more times, hoping that since I did a fast marathon in Chicago, I was only 5 minutes away. And I thought I'll keep going back to the same course. And I didn't. I couldn't. And then I did Minneapolis, St. Paul. That was kind of hilly. Then to St. George. And I don't know, all these marathons. Then finally it clicked. I signed up for Berlin. Somebody said Berlin is really fast. And also, at that time I had this, that's 8 years into my journey. And so I was like, people were talking about these marathon majors. I said, those days there used to be 5 marathon majors. I had done Chicago. I said, okay, maybe I'll do Berlin. And then if I qualify, then I can do Boston. Then it will be only New York and Tokyo. We'll deal with it, and London, of course. And deal with it later. Tokyo wasn't there at that time. It was only London and New York left if I had done that. So continued on, went to Berlin, and I got that. I trained harder and, basically did a lot more strengthening and etc. And so shaved off that 5 minutes, got that Boston qualifier, went to Boston in 2011, and then I think qualified again. So I went to 2012, I went 2 times. And then, of course, then 2013, I wanted to go back to Boston. I did not have a qualifying time for the following year. So trained harder for Toronto. And then people started telling me Toronto is another flat and fast course. So, and by the time the Boston bug had bitten me, so I wanted to keep going back to Boston. So I wanted to get another qualifier. So I did, that was 2013. I started realizing, okay, I need to change a few things. I need a little bit more miles, a little bit more longer runs in the midweek. So, typically, like I said, I was only doing like 4 days a week, 5 miles and then a long run, but that didn't quite cut it. So 2010, 2011 onwards, I started adding midweek long run, do like then of course by the time I had moved inside the loop because we got married, and that was in 2002, we moved in 2003. That helped because being in the town and there's lots of runners, you could learn from others. And, so I joined a running club, Kenyan Way, and that was in 2005. So things happened slowly progressing. And I had a Olympian, Sean Wade, was running this program. So you could, learn quite a bit from him and the group. And so in 2013, I, when I wanted to go back to Toronto, that time I think I wanted to run 320. I said, all right, I want to do 320 now, going from 330 to 320. So then, major focus was strengthening. So I said, okay, then I read about all of that, and I was trying, getting closer to be 50 years old. In 2014, I would have turned 50. So doctor said, well, you need to strengthen a little bit more. So I started strengthening consciously, 3 times a week, doing some strengthening, which was second nature to me because I had done it, I was always interested in doing that. Of course, running took priority over that, so you couldn't allocate so much time. So 2013, I started doing that. And so then again, it started clicking. So did 2013, and I don't remember, 321 or something, and then went to Boston. in 2015. Then I qualified in Boston 3 times. So at Boston, 15, 16.
Nice.
So then, 18 and 19, I did, Grandma's Marathon. And in 2018, I did, like a 310. So that got me New York qualifier. So I went to New York in 2019 to run New York at a 315. And so now I've done Boston, Berlin, Chicago. What am I missing? New York. So 4. So I have London and Tokyo left. Yeah. So now, of course, it's a different goal. Now that I've done those, I want to finish off the majors. So that was the goal. And of course, COVID hit. And so it's been like the last 2 years, it's been like,
But there's some goal that I want to just kind of call out, right? So one is, I think you talked about one fundamental change was doing the long run midweek, which is an interesting takeaway, for those of us who are trying to get better. And but you're right, most of us tend to keep the midweek runs short and always keep the long runs for the weekend. So that's a great tip there. I want to make that. I would make a note of that. And the other thing that you mentioned was strength training, right? And again, that's another piece of gold in what you shared, because that's another area that's becoming definitely more visible. Traditionally, people would say just run, and that should take care of itself.
Right.
But there's so much connection between strength and ability to go faster. So must have been amazing to know that you finished at a 310 after all these years of effort you put in Grandma's. How was it for you? Tell us a little bit about that.
So when I started training for Grandma's, and the other thing, I'm sorry, just before I talk about Grandma's, the other thing I was very religious about was I was absolutely only running 2 marathons a year. And once I finished a marathon, I absolutely shut it down for a while. I did not, I wasn't one of those people that, I have done that, but get out of the, Sunday's a marathon. By Wednesday, you're already started running. I don't do that anymore. So I was like 2 weeks, absolutely nothing. I'll walk, but no, nothing for 2 weeks. And then when I started running, it's like 3 days a week, no workouts for the first 1 month and things of the nature. It's only 2 marathons a year. So the body, kind of needs, you put the body through so much, you need to take care of it. So it's like an off season. So Grandma's, I had said, okay, I want to do all of these things. And during the training, one other thing I was doing, not that it matters. Again, it's individualistic. Different people are different. Runners, we all like beer. So, not that I drink every day. Saturdays, I would just say, 2-3 beers after a long run. Not right after the long run, in the evenings. But when I started training for the marathon, I would completely quit. There's no alcohol, nothing. Did it really matter? Does it really work for everybody? I have no idea. It just worked for me. It just that, maintained. You don't get dehydrated. You don't get, the next day workout. You don't feel groggy when you have to run a Sunday morning. All of that, it just helped. So went through this religiously, followed all those things. And so my goal was 315 or 314, something like that. But actually, I don't know how. It was, it was a great day. It was the weather-wise, it was not that great. But the Grandma's course is incredible, and very, very few people. And it's a fast course. A lot of people that show up are kind of fast runners. And then so I was thinking it would be like a 314 based on all the workouts I had done. My coach had said, okay, if you're doing all these workouts, you look at it, you were hitting all these times, and I think you can do like a 314. That was my goal, 314, 313, something like that. And I almost would have just run that. I know I've been perfectly happy, but funnily enough, about 3 miles before the finish, like mile 23 or 22, maybe, I don't know. And the crowd was going crazy because Grandma's course it's a point to point. So they take you on a bus, like Boston. They take you on a bus 26 miles away, and then you run by Lake Superior all the way to Duluth. Duluth is a very small town to begin with, anyways. So there's absolutely no crowd support until we can enter the city of Duluth, which is probably mile 20 or something. So the crowd helped me going a little bit when I hit the wall. So the crowd helped me going a bit. But the other reason is another friend here in Houston. She's a pretty fast runner. She had some, she's capable of course, she's run sub 3s, but she was taking it an easy day, I guess. But so she was behind me. I did not know, and then she came flying at mile 20 past me, and he said, "Come on, Subbu, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go." And that really helped. And she was pushing the pace, and I tried to just keep up with her. And of course, last half a mile, she just absolutely just kicked it to the next gear, and I just couldn't keep up. But by the time, at least for the 4.5 miles, she had cranked up the pace quite a bit that I did not realize that I could run that fast. I mean, it's always you keep looking at the Garmin, you kind of worry, oh my God, I have not seen this pace before. Should I do it? Should I not do it?
Yeah.
But all of that went out the window when I saw her. She said, come with me. And she was like, this is only 3 miles. It's just the loop of the Memorial Park, et cetera. So we're talking mental games. And so that helped, really. And so, honestly, if I had not seen her, I probably would have been like a 3:13 or a 3:14, which was my goal, 3:13. And I would have been happy because that still would have been like a, 6-minute PR. I would have been happy. But I was actually shocked when I looked at the clock and I said, 3:10, wow. And the last mile was the fastest, which is, again, I really don't want to talk too much about the time because for different people it's different. It is always somebody much faster than I am. And I'm not the fastest guy in my age group anyway. And people have run sub threes, and Ed Woodlock and your friend Gene Dykes and people like that and even locally, my buddies here in the 50s, there are so many people who run sub three. So it's an individualistic thing. For me, 3:10 was a bit of a thing. It doesn't mean it's the fastest time ever, but it just, for me, it was great. And so, that really helped. I will give credit to Flora. She really helped for the last 4 miles. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I hear what you're saying. First of all, it must have been an amazing feeling because it's like not so much about the number per se, but it's about the whole experience, the emotion of hitting something like that unexpectedly when you've been working for it for some time, right?
Right.
And it's just about the progress. It's about, hey, wow. It's like I've been at it for so long. I'm like, whoa! It hit like a brick. I mean, wow!
Right.
I was happy with 3:20, but here I am doing 3:10. So it has a sense of a positive reinforcement for all of us, right?
It did.
So. While we talk about performance and how it's improved, did you also have to tweak around with your nutrition in this process, or was that just accidental?
Nutrition, not a whole lot, because for me, I was maybe a little bit. I was always, I didn't believe. I didn't really go on any, diet or anything like that. I've always been very extremely healthy when it came to eating. Again, going back to the diabetes comment, never had a sweet tooth. The only thing was, I would drink 2 beers on a Saturday evening.
The only carbs.
Exactly, and it's sugar, right? Beer is just a lot of sugar, carbs, exactly. But of course, you're running, and it's okay. But so I didn't really. I was pretty healthy guy, and I'm 99.9% vegetarian. Again, it was partially because, of course, we are vegetarians when we grew up. But then I did start eating meat, early on. I came to the U.S. even before that. But I gave up all of that. I didn't just have a taste for it after sort of several years. I just gave up. And part of it is, it's not like for animal rights, or a little bit of that, a little bit of just didn't feel right. So I just, it's all those things. Once you get older, you think about things in life. But so I was always a vegetarian, 99.9% vegetarian. And that 0.1% is my addiction to sushi. So that I couldn't give that up. So it's like sushi is, eating raw fish, etc. And it's a healthy protein and needed that. So, I other than making sure I was not eating just white rice all the time, just using grains like quinoa or amaranth or something like that, and most of the protein was from our Indian. We all love dal. And so legumes, chickpeas, black beans, black-eyed peas, and all of that, chana dal, etc. Good amount of protein, and it's also vegetarian, and I love that. Just have that with some quinoa or other things, so you get the carb and you get the protein, and I was happy with that. And that's all I did. And it was not as if started doing that before the marathon, or or anything like that. That's been my staple for a very
Right.
long time. I would eat salmon as a fish every couple of days. No, sorry, twice a week, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it was just the things that I mentioned. And the only thing I made sure was not eat a big meal, but kind of space them out. Have a small meal, and every 2 hours I was having some protein or other, some carb and protein. An apple with string cheese, or yogurt with um, I don't know, banana or something, or some granola with some almond milk and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I'll just like space them out every 2-3 hours. Again, that is great for diabetes, and so that you don't have a insulin spike, sugar spike, etc., or you to go down. Those are all the things I learned from seeing what people in India went through with the diabetes. So as I incorporated those, and it was pretty normal. And
Yeah. I was reading that I saw on your Twitter feed that you're a big fan of Japanese culture. It looks like you probably adopted some of that in your even food habits, like smaller portions.
Japan. For several reasons. Japan, first of all, is an excellent running country. I don't know how many people know this. Your listeners obviously know, because a lot of your guys are and ultra runners. Your listeners are, and your guests are. And the running culture in Japan is incredible. I mean, it's an amazing country, and there's a book about running with the buffaloes, or there's another book. What is the one that I'm thinking of? Where the monks in Japan, Buddhist monks, run for days at a time, and miles and 200 miles or whatever. I mean, so the Japan is a running country, and they're really, really fast marathoners. In fact, recently, this past year, in one of the Lake Biwa marathon or something, like 40 runners beat 20 or 40. I don't know the exact number, but it's like an astronomical number of runners beat 210. And 210 is like a big thing. Running sub 210 marathons. In America, you can tell probably about 5 guys maybe have run 210 ever, and sub 210. Don't quote me on that. I don't know the exact number, but so Japan is a running country, and thankfully my job took me to Japan several times a year, and so you watch these runners and you see the culture of Japan. Japan people are very, very kind and very clean and very, very it's more of a community thing. They're not very individualistic people. They're not selfish. It's more about us rather than me and you. It's us as a group. We lift each other. That's kind of a culture, which is very similar to Indian culture if you think about it. So all of that kind of attracted me to Japan a lot. So I started reading a lot of Japanese books, and not written in Japanese, things about Japan, I should say.
Yeah.
The food habits, talking to the Japanese friends and eating, going out, on a business trip with them that I picked up. And I love Japan. Yeah, absolutely. And funnily enough, and we'll talk to you in a bit about that, but, we had, the Japanese lady come and break the half marathon, Japan's national record in Houston 2 years ago. So we'll talk about it in a bit, hopefully. But yeah, so Japan is a great country, and I love Japan, and it's amazing people.
Yeah, Hitomi Nia, I saw that.
Hitomi Nia, correct.
Hitomi Nia.
It's a great story. Hers is a very good story. Yeah.
Awesome. I was reading that you had in some way enabled her ability to do that in Houston, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So where do I start? So I traveled to Japan quite a bit, and like I said, I'm a big sports buff. From my childhood, again, thanks to my dad. So I always was reading any sports. It doesn't matter what the sports is. I try to learn and read and try to quote statistics, etc. And I have, try to remember things, keep it in my head. So Japanese running really, really started intriguing me. So I was starting to follow Japan running. And there is a Twitter feed called JRN, Japan Running News. So I started following that on Twitter, and it was then I started learning about more. And then of course Yuki Kawauchi, won the Boston Marathon. And of course, a lot of people then realized, ooh, Japanese people can run marathon this well, etc. So anyway, I was following JRN, and I was going to Japan quite a bit. And so I sent a DM to the guy who was running, and I thought it was a Japanese guy at the time. And then, of course, learned he was actually a Canadian guy, who's been living in Japan since '87. So, and a marathon runner. So I knew that. So I DM'd him and I said, hey, I know I'm so and so. I visit Japan all the time. I run here at Yoyogi Park, which is it's a running mecca like Memorial Park. It's one of the parks there. And would love to meet up for a run if you're interested. And I never heard back. And I said, okay. Then I said, all right. A name like Subbu, and suddenly cold calling somebody in Japan. I thought I would never hear back from him. I said, okay, well, so what the shot? 3 days later, surprisingly, he responded back. I said, yeah, I'd love to, meet you. I'm like, okay. So we went for a run. And then, we started, and every time I would go to Japan, we would catch up, or coffee or whatever run. And he was the agent. He is the agent of a lot of the Japanese professional runners and a translator, because Japanese people, they cannot speak English very well, a lot of them. So he was a translator, especially when they came to the US and have their press conferences, etc. He would do the translation. He's also an agent of Kawauchi, etc. So when I started talking and I said, hey, I would like to really bring, I love Japan and I knew the capabilities of the persons. I said, would you please send somebody to our Houston Marathon? And, so that's how it started. And but Nia, she used to be a track runner, 10,000 meter runner, and she was pretty good. And then she kept getting injured. So she stopped for 2 years. But then she was trying to, since 2020 Olympics was going to happen in Japan, in Tokyo, she started training again. She wanted to see if she can do the 10,000 meters and qualify for that. So they said, oh, great, this is a great opportunity. Why not, try to run a half marathon and try to set a national record, Japanese national record. So, he contacted me when I came back, and then he emailed me and he said, hey, yeah, Subbu, like we talked. And she went to Doha for the World Track and Field Championships, and she did great. And then he said, can she come to Houston? So we arranged, we brought her as an elite. So the goal was for her to set the Japanese national record. But in turn, she actually ended up winning. She did that in the process, but also ended up winning the Houston's half marathon in 2020, right before COVID shut everything down. That was the last race. And so, yeah. So I, I was pretty happy to see that happen. Yeah. And still keep in touch with them. She gave me her bib. She signed it and gave it to me, and still have it. But yeah.
That's awesome.
He told me.
That's such a beautiful story.
Subbu. Yeah. So, thank you. Yeah, they're really nice people. So I was happy to have, helped her, enabled her. I didn't do anything. I mean, I did, kept, pushing him for sending some athlete. And then suddenly, and I kept telling them, I said, okay, Houston is a really great course, and how many records have fallen here. It's really fast and flat, and etc. So it took a while, because I started talking to him in 2016 or 15 or 16 or whatever. And it's finally 2020, we were able to get one athlete. So that was good. But now, of course, we put Houston in Japan's running map so that people, actually it's funny. He sent me, there was another marathon local race was going on, and he told me he was running the race, and he sent me the TV clip, and, the commentators are also in Japanese, and they're talking about, he told me the camera focuses on Panson, she told me Nia, and she's running, and they talk about her. It's all in Japanese. They talk about her. And then they showed her winning the Houston marathon. So they were just half marathon. So they were just saying that she's a great runner. She went to Houston. She ran the half marathon. Blah blah blah. And so they were just showing her story, etc. So Houston is now in the Japan running map. And I met her coach, and all of that. I mean, he was awesome. The guy, Nia's coach. I took them on the course basically the day before so that they could see where the ups and downs are, etc. Her coach, her pacer, and of course Brett, the agent, and me, the four of us, we drove. And the coach became good friends with me, and so we started, I was tweeting him and this and that. And he told me, he gave me his card, whenever you come to Japan, come, let's do a track workout, I'll show you, blah, blah, blah. After stupid COVID shut everything down, and I have not traveled to Japan since then. So but
that's amazing.
Hopefully when travel resumes, I can go see them. But yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. it's amazing to be just in the space of this level of performance, right? It rubs your spirit.
Yeah, I was happy, and there were some pictures of me. So I actually ran the half marathon too that year, 2020. I had done New York in 2019 November, so I didn't want to. Like I said, I don't like to do marathons back to back anymore, and so just do the half marathon. So she, of course, ran the half. Finished about probably an hour before I did, but whatever. I finished, and I immediately ran to the lounge, and as soon as I entered, everybody's like, Subbu, you're athlete one, you're athlete one, you're athlete one. I'm like, wow. So then I went to the athlete lounge and saw them. And, there's a picture of me, of course, with tears running down me, like I set the record or something. But, she's all happy. And then, of course, I'm like crying. Oh, my God, this is awesome. So, yeah, it is.
Lovely.
Whether it's your personal thing, running, or if for somebody else, help somebody achieve their goal or whatever, it's always it's a good feeling. Yeah,
it's lovely.
I was pretty happy for it.
Absolutely. And, want to definitely bring up the fact that you talked about community. You seem to be quite in connection with that whole value system of community. And, you're also on the board of the Houston Marathon. So, give us a sense of how did that happen and what does it mean to be in the board of Houston Marathon? What exactly does a person do in this kind of a role?
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I'm a very extroverted person, and so and then I've been running at the park for 20 years, so kind of know a lot of people. So I'm always running with people until COVID hit. So we have like a big group of people always running, and I would run with the different running groups, and so I know a lot of people in multiple running groups, etc. And and right from my childhood, I'm again nurture, whatever. Being with my dad and seeing him organize stuff, he was always a leader. I mean, he was like organizing events for his company and the bodybuilding association. He was a commentator, etc., etc., etc. So I always wanted to be that kind of an organizer or facilitator, bringing a group together, getting something done with an organization, etc. That has always been my passion, or I like to do that. I gravitate towards that kind of roles, if you will. So I've been running. I was doing that, having a big group of people, coordinating parties, coordinating events outside, etc. So I did that, and then of course it was doing that, and then of course Houston Marathon is one of the hometown marathons. It's great, and so I really wanted to know the workings of the marathon. How does it happen? What do you do, and how I can help? And I wanted to take a little bit of leadership position, if you will. But being on the board is not really that much leadership. I'll tell you what I mean. It's more of an advisory role, but still, I wanted to be in the organizing, being the thick of things, if you will. And that's the reason I know when you wanted to be always on the board, kept trying, and 4 years ago, maybe 2019, they'd asked me at the time, Brand Koch, the race director, and he's also the board of directors now as well. I mean, he's been there forever. And he and I go and I talk to him many times, and they were trying to add more people to the board, and so they put something on the Facebook page. I applied, and they were looking for somebody with a business kind of skill, marketing, and which is what I do for a living now for a very long time now. More of a business development guy, marketing. And so they said, okay, interview me, and I got on the board, and so I've been serving on that for about 3 years now, 2 years. With respect to my role itself, so the Houston Marathon Board, the board is there's something called the Houston Marathon Committee. That's the name of the organization that puts on the race, and you have the staff, and then you have all the volunteers, the committee members, and then the volunteers. And then the overseeing that, you have the board of directors. And the board is more of an oversight. I mean, basically, we look at advisory board. We don't do any whole lot. We do have subcommittees, HR committee and executive committee, etc., finance committee, secretary. I'm the secretary of the board. We have the executive meetings, etc. But we're more of an advisory role. We don't really do anything from a task standpoint, but we are there to oversee everything is running well, if they need help, etc. Now, me particularly, I wanted to as being that I am very extroverted and I have a lot of friends and I travel quite a bit international. My interest was to bring more international awareness to Houston Marathon. Houston Marathon is already extremely popular, extremely renowned for a fast and a flat course and extremely well organized. But I wanted to bring more international athletes, and that's exactly what I did with Hitomi Nia.
Right.
I was able to do that, and we are trying again for a different person this year as well. Can't talk too much about that, but
Mhm.
that and also getting pacers, the pace groups, etc. I was trying to help with this because we have a lot of friends that have broken sub 3 and
Mhm.
etc. So we were trying to, when we were trying to put pace groups together, I was able to recruit some people and say, hey, would be a pacer, and then trying to facilitate that. The staff again, they're wonderful people. They do all the work, extremely hardworking. I will not take, board directors do not take any credit. They get all
Mhm.
the credit. We try to facilitate. That's all we do.
Got
So
it. Nice. That's awesome. That's terrific.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, what's next for you? Where are you headed with your journey now?
Yeah. Again, I've run 25 marathons, and I thought I would quit like Meb Keflosigi, run 26 marathons and be done. 26, 26.2s. But then I also had this other goal of wanting to do the marathon majors, and I got London and Tokyo left. And Tokyo, I absolutely want to run because, like you said,
Of
I love
course.
Japan, and I've run so many courses there in Japan. I've run the marathon course, not doing the marathon, but I know the course. I've done the Olympic marathon course, but they put together, of course, before they moved it to Sapporo because of the weather, which we'll see the 2021 August how that pans out. But Japan is very, very hot in the summer, which is why they moved it to Sapporo. But anyway, I've run lots of places in Tokyo, and I love that running in Tokyo. Every time I go, I mean, I just enjoy running in Tokyo. So I really, really want to do, whether it's Abbott majors or not, I still want to do a race in Japan. That's a goal, and I would also love to get London in. That way, I get the marathon majors, and then I will quit hopefully. So that's the goal. But I thought I was gonna going on a good track. I had done New York, and after that, I was going to
Mhm.
focus my efforts on London and Tokyo, both of which unfortunately you have to get through the lottery. Tokyo has got
Mhm.
qualifying, but it's extremely fast. There's only one time for all the. There's no age group qualification, etc. So it's like a
Mhm.
sub 250 or something for men, which there's no way I can qualify for. So that's next, I guess, whenever the thing opens up. But I'm also a little bit worried about, jumping in right away with running at 30,000 people. I was tempted to go
Mhm.
back to Boston, the fall Boston, which never happens. It's usually Patriots Day.
Mhm.
But this year, due to COVID, they moved it to September, October timeframe. I did have the qualification time from New York, so I thought, oh man, I'm very tempted. And a lot of my friends are going, but I said no. I'm a little uncomfortable still with mingling with
Yep.
30,000 people. So I'll wait.
Got it.
But that's where the head is right now. It is at right now.
Yep. So when you say quit, you mean you quit competing in marathons, but you still be running, I
Oh,
suppose.
absolutely. I'll do half marathons all day long. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, marathon. It takes a. I say that I may still do it. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But because
Yeah.
corner of the mind, people are saying CIM is fast. CIM is fast. I signed up 1 year. I didn't go. But CM is fast. And I'm thinking, can I beat 310? Maybe 309, 308? And I don't know. Maybe I'll do it. I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's where. But yeah, you're right. I will not quit running. That's no for sure.
Mm.
I mean, it's the social aspect of it is so much for in there for me. So I will not quit because that's how I know
Yeah.
all my friends. They're like family to me. A lot of them are, and they have helped me quite a bit when we were going through some tough times. And it's just the friends through running that have helped me so much. So yeah, there is no way I'm going to give that up. The
Yeah.
social aspect of it, the family, community aspect of it, the camaraderie aspect of it. All your listeners and you yourself can relate to all of that. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. No, that was a lot of and a very enriching conversation. Subbu learned a lot, and I could hear this. Running is just not, while you are a high performing athlete in the sense of having progressed so well over the years, and there is an emotional aspect to running, which is the human side of it. And running is such a fundamentally a human activity, and
correct.
your story about Hitomi, Nia, and about your own personal achievement at 310. Are all great stories of human experience, and at the end of the day, right? Awesome. So, hey, we're kind of coming to the last part of our conversation, and which is I have a fun Q&A round, and you ready for that?
Sure. Okay.
All right, let me get it out. It's related to running mostly, so
Oh my God.
I will not put you into any put you in trouble. All right. I know you said you love beer. So are you a teetotaler now, or are you still occasional?
Occasional. I've actually, for the last year or so, just drink 8 ounces of wine on Saturdays. That's it. So I've been just
Okay.
drinking red
All right.
wine. But still, yeah, I do love beer. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, then I'll skip that question. I was going to ask you what's your favorite spirit, which you already said what it is. Let's maybe ask you what's your favorite junk food?
I don't eat a whole lot of junk food at all, but I don't know. I do every once in a while when I see a donut. I mean, I don't have a sweet tooth, but a donut is sometimes it's like, ooh, it's really, when you see it, I'm like, oh, it's kind of hard to resist. But that's the thing. But I don't really go out and seek and buy donuts or anything like that. But that's what I would say. Or, I mean, even worse than donuts is French fries. I mean, that's something, especially when you finish a race or something, and you have a beer and burger or something. Which, of course, I will eat a chicken burger or a vegetarian burger mostly. I won't eat beef, but the French fries with some ranch dressing. That's my weakness,
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll go with the French fries then.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably a better answer.
The donut is a close runner-up.
Yeah. Donut, I can actually say, yeah, look at it and say, okay, fine, I'm going to turn away. But if I see a French fry, I may probably want to take one and eat it. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. You said you love singing, and
Oh my gosh. No.
a song that uplifts your spirits.
Oh my goodness. I don't
Which,
know why. I love this Beatles. McCartney is thinking about his mother. What is that? Mother Mary comes to me. Let it be. Let it be. That song is always it's about, if you read the story about he's singing about his mother Mary. Mother Mary, when I'm in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me wishing words of wisdom. Let it be. And it's about, if you read about how he wrote that song, it's about, he dreamt about his mom giving him advice. She had passed away, and so that, if you read the lyrics, it's very uplifting. And I was still am. My mom passed away, but I'm a mama's boy, and I've been very, very attached to my mom.
hmm.
So every time I listen to that song, it brings memories of my mother. So I
Hmm.
love that song.
All right. Beautiful. Beautiful. Your favorite running gadget?
I'm not a big gadget geek at all.
Hmm.
I just wear my Garmin watch. That's about it. I don't like to wear anything. I just don't like anything in my body, really. So most, of course, Houston helps with that. So I just use no shirt and just a minimal amount of clothing, just shorts. And I'm not a big fan of any, the heart rate monitors or compression socks, sleeves, things of that nature. I tried all of that, and I'm not. I'm very simple, basic. Just put your shorts on and run. That's it. The only thing is the watch.
Hmm.
Even that, sometimes I just try to run without a watch. I never even used to listen to music or podcast or anything like that when I'm on the run. One of the purists that, I don't want to. I just want to enjoy nature. I just want to enjoy that. Keep my brain thinking. It's my rest day. I don't want to think about it. But and that was partly because I was also running with a big group of people all the time. I never ran other than the first 3-4 years when I trained for the marathon by myself. I've been lucky to be associated with a group, and I was running with them all the time, and that I
Hmm.
never felt the need to wear a headset. But once this COVID thing happened, and even before New York too, I started training by myself. Then for the easy runs, I needed some motivation and to catch up on podcasts like yours. I would listen to it on my run, and so that's the only thing I would say gadget. I have a like a Bluetooth headset and a iPhone and put it into my flip belt or something, and that's it.
All
Other than
right.
that, I'm not a big gadget guy at all. I like looking. I mean, you and I are engineers. I mean, we like looking at data and all that. So I'm constantly downloading information and looking at information and reading. I never buy anything, and I'm not that big a gadget guy. But I like to read. I like to suggest. I like to review things, but I don't like to buy them myself. I'm like, I don't. I won't use them. That's the
So,
thing.
so we pick the Bluetooth headset then? Is that your pick?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's go with
We'll
that.
go with that.
We'll go with that. All right. A place that you want to visit once the pandemic is over, other than Tokyo. I know that's covered. Is there
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah. My wife and I have been wanting to go to Seski Krumlov it's one of the UNESCO heritage sites in Czech Republic near Prague.
Hmm.
It's been on our not bucket. It's been on our list of places to visit for a very long time. We became pretty close to it in 2013, and things happened, and we had to put that off. We went back to Europe. We went closer to Prague, and we went to Budapest, etc. Last year before COVID hit in 2019. We didn't do that, so that's the place that has been like intriguing me, and I've been wanting to go for a while. And then, of course, Machu Picchu, and the South American side, Machu Picchu and Galapagos Island, things of that nature. So we'll go with Seski Krumlov for now for an answer. But there's lots of places to visit. I'd love to go to, but we'll just say Seski Krumlov because that's something like me and wife, both of us have been wanting to go. So I would pick that one over
All
the
right.
others.
That's a first. I've never heard of that place. I'm going to Google it once we are done
Yeah,
with
it
the
is
show.
spelled CECESKY space KRUMLOV. It's a
Okay.
beautiful
Yeah.
place, I believe. I've never
See,
been,
we
but
learn.
yeah.
Awesome.
So
Awesome. That's
yeah.
terrific. Okay. Something new. Never heard of that. All right. Last one, which is my favorite question I ask all my guests is if a movie were made of you, A, what genre would you put it in? And B, who would you like to play you?
Oof. Holy crap. I would like to play myself because I always wanted to be an actor. That would be my first answer.
There we go. We launch you.
Genre, oh my goodness. I'm a movie buff for sure. I mean, wife and I watch, we are more addicted to this World War II kind of movies, history movies. But would I want to play a part in that? I am not sure. So, maybe a romantic comedy because I do. I'm an extrovert. I kind of like to sing, dance, stuff like that. I don't know. That's a tough one, Santosh. Maybe a romantic comedy starring myself.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go with that. We'll go with
Or
that.
Bruce Willis because he's got the same head as I am. Similar age too, but yeah, maybe. But somehow Bruce Willis in romantic comedy doesn't go well. He's more of
Doesn't
an
go
action
as
macho figure.
action
So
guy.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
that's a good question, though. I had to think about it.
All right. Yeah, but we'll go with the
Romantic comedy.
first,
Yeah.
starring Subbu Venkat, and the script's coming your way.
Interesting.
All right. All right, Subbu, that was a very fascinating conversation to hear about your journey, and there's so much of richness in your experience and what you've done. We're kind of coming to the end of our show. Before we wrap up, what is there anything I'd like to give you the last word? Is there anything you want to convey to our audience?
Again, this is just to not just because I'm an organ donor, but I want to promote the cause of living organ donation. There's lots and lots of people that are dying, waiting for life-changing organ donation. I mean, they're waiting for organs like kidney or liver. The thing about typically you have people that are waiting for organs like life-saving organs like kidney, liver, heart, pancreas, etc. The thing about kidney and liver is that heart obviously you cannot a living live person cannot donate, but the kidney and liver are such that people are blessed with two kidneys and all you need is one kidney, and I donated mine in 2014. And I did not know much about that at the time, but now I've been very passionate about the cause of living organ donation because approximately there, at any given time, there's about 100,000 people today waiting for organ donation. The 80% of that are waiting for kidneys, and the little bit more, about 10%, 17% are waiting for liver. Both of which, so if you add that up, 95%, 97% of the people are waiting for kidney or liver, and both of which can be addressed with living organ donors. And liver, even though we have only one liver, the magic of liver is that they take a part of your liver and give it to the person that needs liver. They're dying because they don't have the functioning liver. Then your liver grows back to its original size, and the other person's liver also grows back to its original size. And kidney, you have two kidneys, so you can easily give one kidney away and to someone that is in need. That's every if you think about the statistics, if you start reading about it, it's pretty mind-boggling. There's every 9 minutes, somebody dies. Every 9 minutes, somebody is added to the transplant waiting list, and then 17 to 20 people per day die waiting for an organ. They cannot get an organ because the waiting list for an organ is very, very long. And typically the organ donation works is like somebody says they want to donate an organ, they get in the registry, and then when they pass away, then that organ is given to someone else. But that takes a long time, and a lot of people do not sign up to be an organ donor even when after they pass away. That's the simplest thing anybody can do. If your religion allows, etc., should consider becoming at least when you pass away, your organ can be used by somebody else. But also, if you're able to, and living organ donation can also be considered because you can. I've been living with one kidney since 2014, and I still run marathons. All my PRs have come since then, and so I highly encourage people to read about living organ donation, and at the very least, sign up to be a donor when you pass away, so that your eyes can be donated, your everything. So many things can be donated, and they all have a need in the society, and so that really will help.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And we'll share the information on the show notes for folks who are interested more about it. But that's amazing. That's beautiful. Thank you for what you're doing there, Subbu. So thanks a lot for taking your time this afternoon and sharing with you your story. I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of the Saturday here, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I apologize that I spoke quite a bit, but that's my style. So sorry about that. But I really appreciate you giving me the time and the opportunity to share my story with your listeners.
Thank you. Thank you.